Welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Emily Johnson, joined by David Kroll, and we have been discussing primarily economic theory and economic numbers so far today. And I think we're going to continue along that trend. So over the break, David suggested that he wanted to throw a few more numbers out there to start the second half of the show. So what have you got?
The other interesting variable is new housing sales and existing housing sales, which have been very supportive of the economy over the last several years. We've had a slow growth economy, picking up from where we left off, but both new and existing house sales have done very well. The auto industry also has experienced pretty good times throughout this period. Not wonderful.
Recently.
But recently you've seen a dip.
Right, big dip.
You see? And what we're seeing
across the board for Ford, for
Lexus,
for
everybody.
Yeah.
Now, why does that happen? That happens, I'm going to come back to housing, but that happens in autos because it's easier to see there. If people defer for 2 or 3 or 4 years, generally speaking, defer new purchases of automobiles, then all the automobiles get old at once and you have a surge in auto sales. Mm-hmm. So not the entire, but a big portion of the national inventory of automobiles gets renewed and replaced over a 3 or 4 year period once things are gangbusters again.
Well, and interestingly, interest rates...
The same happens in housing.
Yes, I mean, interest rates had a big impact on that in the beginning, where you could get, pardon me, I'm about to sneeze, where you could get car loans for 0%, 0.9%. Now you can't do that, even though rates are still as low as they were before. They're not, that's not
the
staying
auto
in the
companies are
marketplace.
not giving it away.
Right.
No. I mean, basically, the auto companies, whatever the true cost of the money was, whether it was 3% or 4% throughout that period, because you obviously, as avid followers of Money Matters, you know that the rates have been low for a long time. Low means 3-ish%, 3-4%. Now, what the auto companies have been doing is taking that true cost of money and burying it in the price of the house,
right?
The price of the car, and so that has led to a surge in auto sales as the older inventory coming out of the recession got replaced. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cars got replaced. Now, the housing stock has gone on the same cycle. The housing stock was depleted by 2011, 12, 13 because we'd gone for 5 or 6 years without the customary replacement of housing stock in the society, and without borrowers who could afford to buy new houses, and without borrowers who could afford to move up to give room to the other buyers coming up.
The credit market
was a disaster.
Right, everything was there.
Everything was tough. So now we had a very, very nice growth in new housing starts. 13, 14, 15, 16, in 17, we're starting to see that slow. Mm-hmm. And again, we got to watch out because it's so important on this show for us to focus on our market. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like we're going to see that slowdown.
It's not. Yeah, we're definitely. I think we're low, aren't we, on inventories now? I mean,
we're extremely low on inventories, and our Savannah, Bluffton, Beaufort, Charleston Beltway, Bluffton most extraordinary, Okatee, Ridgeland most extraordinary to us, is going to see tens of thousands of houses, tens of thousands of new families over the next decade. It's absolutely extraordinary. We have I think 60 new families moving into the area daily. It's extraordinary. We have developers reporting waiting lists, or not waiting lists, inquiry lists that number in the tens of thousands. In other words, the people who have requested information preparatory to moving here for jobs or retirement, numbers in the tens of thousands.
I've heard that the new villas or condos, whatever we call them here at Shelter Cove, I guess they're oversubscribed to the tune of like 2,000 people or something.
2,000 oversubscribed.
Yeah.
Here in Shelter Cove on that one development.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. So what we're what it looks like is nationally we're going to see a slowdown in the housing market, not a collapse, but a slowdown. But locally, we're going to continue to benefit by being a retirement destination.
True, but I would argue that commercial real estate's definitely moving in the opposite direction of that, because with the trend of folks not having to work in an office and perhaps a desire to work in an office on occasion, and so shared office space and that type of thing, commercial space doesn't seem to be moving in the same direction, whether it's here or nationally.
That's correct. That's correct. And there's a radical change in commercial real estate functionality of commercial real estate, because if you look at Hilton Head and Bluffton, it grew with mini malls, little strip malls, and strip malls are exactly the kinds of things that are having difficulties at the moment, because the traffic is going to very big box stores or to the internet, one of the two, and the little strip malls having very difficult time.
You know, just getting back to our local market, though, it's interesting when you have so many folks that are moving in. Yes, we're still catering to a retirement economy, but those retirees, if they're fully retired, their incomes are still relative, you know, to previous decades. They're much lower if they're based on, you know, current interest rates and those types of investments than they have been in the past, which I would think impacts the type of homes that people are buying, where they're buying, that type of thing, because it's not, they might have the nest egg saved that is the same size as what, you know, a similar retiree had, you know, 10, 15 years ago. However, the income that they can generate from it in this low income or low interest rate environment is probably half.
Yes, exactly. And,
at least without substantial risk, and most folks are not super excited to take on substantial risk as they approach retirement and stop taking a regular paycheck. So they want that income replacement, and it's tough to get.
it's very difficult, but what we're finding is that as lenders, and we get a peek at the personal balance sheet of a lot of these people, just as you do when they come to you to invest. No, they're coming into retirement without the investment funds, without the big 401ks, without the amount of money that you would expect people coming into retirement. So if given the person's lifestyle in Toledo, or given their lifestyle in Massachusetts or whatever, you would say, well, that person's probably got $500,000 in retirement funds. Turns out they've got $250. You know, turns out that they've got less than you would have expected. And we're in a market where the financial advisor has to struggle to get returns of 2, 3, 4%.
It also turns out that most of those folks haven't actually looked at what their spending in retirement is going to be. No assumptions at all whatsoever. Not, you know, I'll frequently get questions about healthcare and, you know, the expenses that are going to go with that and needs for long-term care, but just general spending. My experience is that a lot of folks haven't actually looked at that prior to retiring.
Haven't looked at the budget, and we revert to that every time, because we can make. It's really tough to get a return on invested funds of more than a few percent at the moment, but it's perfectly possible to jack that return up from 3% or 4% to 15% simply by getting rid of a $600 car payment and getting an extraordinarily reliable $2,500 Lexus that's going to go another 100,000 miles.
Right.
You know, I mean, there are tricks to the business
that
really
they're not
work.
that savvy. Yeah. They didn't require an MBA.
They didn't. No, and so we revert to that a lot. The other thing I have to throw out a compliment is that the home builders, particularly the larger home builders, the Village Parks, the D.R. Hortons, the Hovnanians, the Sun Cities, they have figured out ways to deliver really pretty cool houses, not just at $450,000 or $500,000, but all the way down the track. They're still delivering cool houses at $200,000.
Oh, there's definitely a lot.
And that solves a multitude of ills when it's you and me trying to figure out how this incoming couple is going to get the job done.
Right.
It solves
Lots more inventory.
Yeah.
Options.
Yeah. Options.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us this week on Money Matters. Please send us your thoughts, issues, concerns, comments, everything. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next week, this has been Money Matters. Have a wonderful week.